A few things to announce before starting the lecture. So our first due date has been passed. So so I know that some of the students have a email message for getting a little bit of extension. So I'll grant that. But so the second week, the batch of the challenge will be starting today. So please make sure to have enough time budget for solving the challenges for crypto as soon as possible. And we will have quiz 1 on next Thursday. So before having quiz 1, I will release a quiz preparation video on next Tuesday. So you will see that some of the example questions and then what kind of things will be on the quiz for that. And then I will release the more information about the quiz next Tuesday. But basically the quiz is done via online, and then you will have up to 3 trials, and then I will take the highest score from all the trials, and then you are allowed to refer to any kind of materials that I published. So you can refer to the tutorial and your code, and also for the lecture slides and videos during taking the quiz. But please don't discuss each other with the students while taking the quiz, and also please don't ask while taking the quiz. Please don't ask, is this answer correct or not? Yeah. So we will only accept the questions if there's a factual error in the questions, then we will handle that. So if you don't understand what we are asking, then please ask. But otherwise, please study and take the quiz. Question?
How long is the test, and
so
how long do we have to complete it? One day or?
So I will open that for 2 days. Yeah, and then you will have 3 times to attempt, and then I will set the quiz duration as 12 hours or something. But I believe most of you can finish in 30 minutes to 1 hour. So yeah, I believe that will be plenty of time, and then that may handle some of the errands that if you have an internet connection disconnected, or your dog jumped on the keyboard and then pushed the wrong answer. So even if in that case, you can cover up that in the following trials, so please do so. So when students ask me about there is a website error, and then I will restart the CTFD when I get to the doing the tutorial. And then for the students who ask questions at the last minute, so if I have time, I would like to help you, but I also busy for the preparing others. So please try to attempt on the challenges as soon as possible. Then I can handle questions well. And then some other students asked me about they cannot submit the write-up, but for the write-ups, it's okay to submit that be submitted a little later. So I will just count for the time that you have submitted the flags. So please feel free to upload your write-up after finishing all the challenges and submitting all the flags. And before starting the material for today, let's do a little bit of a recap about what we have learned in last week. So we learned about the block cipher and how they can go wrong in last week. So we can break the ECB padding scheme by substituting the known plain text part of the ciphertext to somewhere else. So just copy and paste known blocks, then we can control plain text. And for CBC, because it's good because always the plain text will be XOR'd with the random IV or random looking some ciphertext data. But the problem is that if the ciphertext is unprotected, then we can edit the block, one block before of the target plain text block. Then the XOR that we applied on that ciphertext will be directly shown on the next block in the plain text. And for the CTR, this is the weird mode. It does not use a block cipher decryption at all. So what it will do is it will set the counter. Then starting from that, count 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's something like random number plus 0, 1, 2, 3 for each block. And then what it will do is it will directly encrypt that number, and then it will generate permutated number, so which is a ciphertext, and then we will use that as a key to generate the real ciphertext. So in this mode, we are not encrypting or decrypting the plain text using the block cipher. We will use block cipher as a random number generator. So it's very similar to the having an ideal case for the perfectly secure encryption. So if we have a honey jar that can generate the real random number for many times identical for the two party, then like we can use the perfectly secure encryption. So because XOR is perfectly secure scheme, we know that if we reuse the key and it is not secure, it does not harm the security of the CPR mode itself. So thankfully, the cryptographers have proved that the CPR mode is IND-CPA. That means indistinguishable to chosen plain text attack. So what that means is like if we play with some of the plain text, then attackers cannot get any kind of advantage. But the problem is all of these block cipher schemes, even if they are proven to be secure as like the indistinguishability against the chosen plain text attack, it does not. So it only gives the data confidentiality, and then not about the data integrity. So for the chosen ciphertext attack, the attack that we can edit the ciphertext, so they're all valid. So they are all susceptible to that attack. And to counter that, we studied about the cryptographic hash function, and then using the cryptographic hash function, so function f here. So the characteristics of the hash function is that the function is one way. So even if you know the outcome, even if you know fx equal y, so even if you know the y, then you cannot guess what was x. And then another characteristics is that the so-called Avalanche Effect. And what that is like if you have a small change in the input of the function, then the output will be changed drastically. So that's there to kill some of the correlation attack between the observing a lot of the x and y, and then try to correlate what will be the x from y, something like that. And then how we can use the cryptographic hash function for verifying the integrity of the data is that, so we will exploit the one-way characteristics, and also like the attackers cannot guess what is x from y. So what we will do is we will set a secret key. So I put it as just a string secret key, but you can actually put the binary data of the secret key here, and then you will attach entire encrypted data. So although IV is not encrypted, we should include IV in this integrity checking, because we learned that the editing IV will affect on the first block of the ciphertext, plain text of the CBC mode. So we need to put the entire message, and then we can generate the message authentication code. And then because this function is one way, even if we let attacker know about this message authentication code, they will never know the secret key. Then that means that they will never generate the valid Hmac for this kind of data. So what we will do is we will paint this kind of the message authentication code. So you can regard this as a 32-byte data. If we use a SHA-256, then our final encrypted data would look like this. Then how we will verify if there's an attack to the ciphertext or not is we will recalculate the message authentication code using the secret and the entire encrypted data. And if data has not been changed, then the message authentication code will be the same. So that's how we can verify that. But suppose the attackers ever edited the ciphertext data, then we will calculate the Hmac with the different data. And then there was a characteristic that for the cryptographic hash function, if we have even if we have a very small change in the input, we will have the drastic change on the output side, and then attackers can never correlate that. So we will have a totally different value of the Hmac. So that's how we can verify this part of the data has not been tampered at all. And so like the correct way to use generate the message authentication code using the hash function is the so-called Hmac. So hash-based message authentication code. And then we need to run hash twice. So we need to, suppose we have a key as an ASDF or any kind of binary data, you can put that into the hash function first, then it will normalize the size of the message. So the hash function itself is deterministic. So if once the key is determined, then this value will be determined too. But the reason why we are running hash function twice is that to normalize the key size, then that makes the cryptographers easier to provide proofs. Yeah, that's the main reason. And then if we use any kind of hash function, so not specific to SHA-256, so we could use SHA-512 or SHA-3 or newer one. Yeah. And then the Hmac is proven to be secure by having these kind of construction and using the cryptographically secure hash message. So SHA-256 is now currently is believed to be secure. So constructing Hmac with this kind of fashion is secure way. And then suppose the attacker changes the data, then we will have a completely different message. So these SHA-256 sums are like generated by, I just added 2 bits of the data. So even if you added 1 bit, then you will have a totally different data. And then we can detect that the data has been modified by comparing the Hmac with the Hmac that we generated. So to summarize the Hmac part, block cipher modes let attacker play with the cipher text. And then because the block cipher does not protect data integrity, so they are susceptible to those attacks. And to protect data integrity, we can use cryptographic hash function. One way cannot correlate, small change will be result in big change. And then we can create the Hmac, that's the secure way to create the message authentication code using the cryptographic hash function. And we also learned about RSA. So the recap is quite long because we learned a lot. So the RSA is somewhat particular because like it does not have a symmetric key. So for block cipher or XOR cipher, we have one certain shared key among 2 parties to decrypt the data. But for RSA, we can have 2 kind of the keys. One is public key and the other is private key. So public key does not have a requirement that need to be kept secret. So we can publish it. So then what that means is that we can publish that on the homepage. And also we can publish that on the, there is some of the website called PGP, Pretty Good Privacy. So there is one can generate their private key and then announce public key for the email encryption. But nowadays, there are better services such as Keybase or other like secure messengers that allows you to have a private key. So in that cases, like we can have this kind of construction. So the interesting thing is that we do not have a requirement for the encryption. So any kind of sender can send me the message if they know my public key. And then public key, by the definition, it needs to be public. So I can announce that anywhere. So if you want to send the encrypted message to me, then you can go to my Twitter or Keybase account, and you can easily find my PGP private key, public key, and then send the encrypted message to me. And then the RSA is based on the difficulty of the prime factorization. So there's a number magic, then we choose 2 big primes, and then like without knowing the P and Q, the exact number, they cannot correlate the decryption key, the private key, from the public key. But the problem is that this problem, prime factorization, that can be easily solvable by the quantum computers. So like the RSA is at attack by the quantum computers because like some of the companies are saying that they achieved quantum supremacy. So there are some of the debate about like whether that's true or not, and then quantum computer is it real or not. But the real thing is that if there's a quantum computer, then RSA will be totally broken. It's something like you can think it as like the time complexity of O(n) to the 6 to be like the O(n) kind of thing. Yeah. And then the good thing about this kind of the public and private key is like there's no binding of the key for the encryption. So anyone can encrypt the message, but only the holder of the private key can decrypt the message. And by exploiting this kind of the setup, we can also use RSA as a digital signature scheme. So what that means is that for the encryption, for RSA, we need to encrypt the data for communication using the public key and decrypt that data using the private key. But in the digital signature scheme, it's the opposite. So we will use private key to encrypt the message, and then that message can only be generated by the private key holder. So the implication is that it's something similar to you, only you can do that, and then you are endorsing on the sum of the message. And then good thing about that one is that the private key, public key, the RSA is just an exponent operation. And then the internal is like the public key multiplied by private key need to be 1. So we are making the exponent as a 1, so we can decrypt. So private encryption is exactly the inverse operation of the public encryption. Yeah. So that means that we can develop, we can decrypt that signed message with public key. So that means anyone can obtain the public key, so they can verify the message. So it's something like only you hold the private key and then announce the public key and then generate the message. Then we can verify that you are the generator of that message. Any questions for the recap about the Hmac and RSA? Yes. So there could be a scheme for that. So like there is some schemes called the group signatures. So like we could have like a group and then public key on the group, and then like we could issue like the private key to each person. Yeah. But we can do that in a different way. So if you want to create a group, so the one easy way is to create the kind of group signature. But the problem of that group signature is that whenever there is a key compromise, then we need to reset the key of the entire group. Yeah. But think about RSA. So we distribute all the public key, private key, and then gather the public key to create some of pseudo group kind of thing. Yeah. So the cryptographic scheme itself does not support group at all, but we can conceptually create the group with the group of the public key. In that case, if there's any kind of the compromisation of the key, then we just need to update that user, not about the updating the entire key. So that problem is so-called the key revocation problem. And then that's the real problem in reality with the users. And then that's the main hurdle that the reason why we are not using public and private key for website authentication. So at least we are using that for our SSH server authentication. So my goal is everybody in this class know how to use the public key. All right, so the topics for today is we will learn about the digital certificate first, and then we will learn about the Diffie-Hellman key exchange algorithm. So some of you guys got confused that like starting from this week, we will learn more about the network security, but why are we still in the crypto? Because to implement all the network security for the web and then the internet, so we will use all these kind of techniques all together. So for the lecture on Thursday, we will learn about how we can you make the internet communication secure. So internet is developed without security at all. So with the bare metal internet, it's not secure. Anyone can intercept the message, anyone can inject the message, and anyone can read the message. Yeah. But we can make that kind of the insecure communication channel to be a secure communication channel using the cryptography as tool. And then as a brief showcase, we will use digital signature to verify the authenticity of the other party. And then we will use key exchange based on the authenticity verification. So we will do key exchange after we know who you are. And then we will use block cipher for confidentiality. And then we will use Hmac for integrity. And then we can have authenticity, confidentiality, and integrity, those three properties for the secure communication channel. And let's start with the digital certificate. So let's start with the why do we need the digital certificate? So think about the case that you would like to connect to the OregonState.edu website. So, but how internet works is that, so there's a server called the DNS, domain name server. And then when you query the OregonState.edu, they will give us the IP address, and then we will connect to the server. Then who operates the DNS? Google has one, Cloudflare has one, Amazon AWS has one, and the Oregon State University has one too. And then there are so many entities runs the DNS. What that means is that there are many point of failures. So if any one of the DNS server administrator got compromised and then they changed the IP address of the OregonState.edu to 1.1.1.1, then it will go to there. Yeah. So even with that case, can we have a secure method that we can verify that's you or not? So we want to verify the target website is OregonState.edu. Yeah. And then what we want to do is after we verify the target entity, then we can negotiate the keys for the block cipher and then Hmac. Then we can have the confidentiality and the integrity. Yeah. So confidentiality and integrity will be coming from the block cipher and Hmac. So the only missing piece for having a secure communication is the authentication. So now the question is like how can we know the other end on the internet is actually the OregonState.edu? So the question is about the authenticity. So what we will do is we will ask target server that, are you OregonState.edu? Then what we need is like the proof that that server is really that server. But on the internet, anyone can say that I'm OregonState.edu. So that's possible. Yeah. So then is there any way that we can reliably check the other end's authenticity? So in the real life, it's quite easy. So whenever I go to some grocery store to purchase beer, so I need to present this kind of thing. And then, so I change it a little bit. So don't worry, I just grabbed this photo from the Oregon government sample site. So this is not the real ID. And then, so we need to verify that the owner of this domain is the real beaver, and then has this kind of a public key. Then we can securely encrypt the data. So in the digital and internet world, we have this kind of the infrastructure for checking one's identity, and that's so-called public key infrastructure. So I believe the virtual world on the internet is not that different from the real world that we are living here. So like because we need the authenticity checking for purchasing beer or something for a certain age limit. So we need to verify that. And then same thing happens on the internet. So conceptually, we need to generate this kind of the ID checking and then ID issuing the authority. And then we built that on like as a name of the public key infrastructure. And then this PKI came out after the RSA encryption algorithm came out, because the RSA algorithm was the first public key cryptography that supports the digital signature scheme. So the good thing about the public key scheme is that like, we can publish the public key, so anyone can obtain my public key. So, and so that's the thing. But how can you make sure that certain public key binds to certain identity? Yeah. And the PKI resolves the problem. And to show that how we do that is, so to support PKI, we create so-called the digital certificate. And digital certificate, so whenever you connect to any kind of website with via HTTPS, you will see the lock icon on the browser. And then if you click it, then there's a security or certificate, then get into that menu, you will see this kind of certificate. So this is the real certificate of the OregonState.edu website. And then from there, we can see that the certificate was issued to OregonState.edu, Oregon State University. So that looks like we are connecting to the correct website. But the problem is that who assures this website is OregonState.edu? If I can do that, then I can generate my own certificate and then type OregonState.edu, and then I'm the website owner. Then how can you know that? So to check that, we have a issuer information inside of here. And then let me guide you on like the understanding like how the entire PKI works, starting from the next slide. So at the first phase, suppose the OregonState.edu wants to run a web server securely. To do that, they need to get a certificate. So the entity that requires a certificate create so-called certificate request. And then there are more detailed information specified like some of the, like this. But what they basically need is like the information about the entity. So who are you? So OregonState.edu. And then we would like to use this certificate to what kind of domain name. So we can specify that. And then we need to put our public key in there. And also, we also put a signature of it using our private key. So how we can generate the signature is that, so except for the signature, for this part, we just fill the information. And then after finishing the form, so you can regard this as a form filling, and then we will get the SHA-256 sum of this part. And then we will sign that hash checksum using the Beaver's private key. And then the reason why we require a signature on the certificate request is that actually proves that you are the owner of the private key. So as a certificate issuer, we should not generate this kind of certificate for any kind of public key, because somebody can lie about like if they are holder of the public key. And then to verify if that entity indeed holding the private key or not, is that asking for the signature message. So we will ask the requester to get the SHA-256 sum of this data and then put the signature on it. So later, if we decrypt this signature with the corresponding public key, then we should get the same SHA-256 sum. And then the security feature here is that we are verifying the SHA-256 sum of this part. So if the public key has been changed, then signature will be mismatching. So this signature will be matched for the exactly same data of this part. So that means even if the middleman, a mailman, changes the public key, then that will not be accepted because the private key is there and the signature should be there. And then the requesting entity must prove that they are holder of the public key, private key. So after requester prepares this certificate request, then issuer gets the request and then verifies the information and then digitally signs the certificate. And then what they are doing is that after getting the certificate, so someone is requesting for the OregonState.edu and then this kind of thing, and then with the public key, and then there was a Beaver's public key here, a private key here. then we first verify the signature to see that the entire request is not modified at all. And then after verifying the signature, maybe the issuing company can make a phone call or send some of the people to check the Oregon State University has indeed requested the certificate creation request. So this looks quite archaic, but actually we are doing that. So for the HTTPS connection, the secure web connection, the technique is so-called SSL, secure socket layer. And then there is a digital certificate, so-called EVSSL. So that stands for Enhanced Verification SSL. So what that means is that, so some of the company just issue the certificate if we own the domain and then check that. So what they are doing is like, suppose like if this is not OregonState.edu, so I own my domain, unexploitable.systems. Suppose this is a cs370.unexploitable.systems. Then to get the certificate, what I need to do is like that I need to get a random number from the issuer and then put that, the exact same random number on my website. Then they will connect through the internet. And then if they see the correct message, then it verifies the I own the this domain. It's something similar to the phone verification, 6-digit number kind of thing. Yeah. And then, yeah. So that's about the EVSSL. And then after checking these, they can sign the message. So after checking that all the information is correct and also verify that the requester holds the private key, then they will sign the SHA-256 sum of the certificate with their private key. Yeah. And what that means that, so issuer put their public key and also they provide a signature about that. So that means that anyone who holds the issuer's public key can verify that that issuer generated the certificate. Yeah. So let's go over that kind of step with the figures again. So for the certificate request, to create one certificate, the example Beaver generates the certificate request for the OregonState.edu and put their public key and put their signature for the certificate. Yeah. And then like so this kind of domain could be anyone, anything. So like we need to verify that the requester is a domain owner, or for EVSSL, we are actually sending human or like do phone call or do some other measures to verify that the entity is correct one. So it's something similar to having multi-factor authentication for the website user kind of thing. Yeah. So we are doing that for the companies. And then after the issuer receives the certificate request, they need to verify their identification. So whether the requester is indeed owning the OregonState.edu domain and then from the Oregon State, and then also the owning the public key. And then we can do that by verifying the signature. And then issuer will put their information. So issuer will put their public key here, and then they will sign the entire part right before the signature. Yeah. So this is for protecting the message from here to the public key of the issuer. Yeah. So in the certificate, we have the target entity, and also we have the information about the issuer's entity. Yeah. So because we have the issuer's public key, then we can verify that the issuer's signature then means that this kind of thing has been verified by this company in common RSA. And then OregonState.edu was verified by this one and then signed as a certificate. So that's why we are seeing that from the certificate information. So this certificate is issued for OregonState.edu, and then their public key is something like this. And then that is issued by in common RSA, one of the company name. And then the certificate is SHA-256 fingerprint is this one. So if you verify the signature with the issuer's public key, of this certificate, you need to get the exact same message of this one. Any questions about the digital certificate? So you can think it as some of the ID card with some of the information, and then there is a tamper-proof logic. So in the physical ID, we have a reflectors or something else to making the replication of the ID card is hard. But I know that like some of the incidents says that like it's not that hard to fool some of the human verifier. But in this world, we are doing all the things with the cryptography and mathematics. So if there's any kind of the modification, then we can detect it. But that's not always true. So in, I believe 2008, so we previously used the insecure fingerprint. So right now we don't use SHA-1. So we only use SHA-256 for the secure communication. But in 2008, the insecure algorithm, MD5, was still active. And then some of the group of the hackers would like to demonstrate that like the hacking MD5 is real. So announced that nobody should use the MD5. And then how they did it was like to generate the matching hash, the value without knowing the secret key. We need to run a lot of computation. And then at that time in 2008, the cheapest supercomputer build one can do right now is using Raspberry Pi or something, but at that time was using PlayStation 3. Yeah, so that they purchased a lot of PlayStation. I know it's PlayStation 3, 2 or 3, I believe. Yeah. So that they purchased a lot of the PlayStation 3, and then like they hacked the operating system, and then making it as a hash cracker, and then they succeeded on like the creating a fake certificate of the real web server. And then I just demonstrate that the Oregon State.edu was assured by in-common RSA. Yeah, so we have seen that in the certificate. Then we can verify that certificate is signed by in-common RSA is a public key, right? But the problem is that then who will verify this company's identity? So if one of the Oregon State.edu certificate is signed by Youngjin Zhang, then never trust that. So that anyone can do and generate that. But the important thing is like that we need to allow some trustworthy entity to issue this certificate. The same thing happens in the real ID, the driverless license. Only DMV can generate that, and then any other entity, if they can generate it, then that's the fake ID. Yeah. So there's a trust chain, and then once you get into the more detail about the digital certificate, you will see that there is a Oregon State.edu, the requesting entity itself, and then it is assured by the in-common RSA server's certificate authority, CA, and then that will be assured by user trust RSA certificate authority. So it's something like there will be the end entity, then there are a lot of middlemen about like the verifies the end user, and then verifies the intermediate certificate authority, and then the root CA. So let's take a look at this in more detail. So this is a screenshot of Firefox, and then Firefox has a more detailed UI for the viewing the certificate. And then for the Oregon State.edu certificate, this certificate is assured by in-common RSA server CA. And then how we can check the trust chain is that we need to get the certificate of this entity. So that's why there's another tab about the in-common RSA server CA. So that is assured by user trust network. So the another company assures in-common RSA. Then what about the user trust the RSA certification authority? So subject name is user trust. Issuer name is user trust. Do you want to trust them? So the certificate itself is signed by them. So it's something like they generate their own ID. Yeah. And then the real internet works like this. Yeah. And then let's take a look at the real world example. So we also use trust chain in the real world. And then maybe you could be a student or Oregon resident or US citizen. And when we issue the student ID, the one easy way is verifying your Oregon ID. Yeah, because we trust the Oregon government. And then when we issue the Oregon driver's license, so if you renew your driver's license, it's okay to bring your old driver's license. But if you don't have that kind of the previous ID or something, then you need to bring your birth certificate or US passport that you can prove your identity. There's something else that we can delegate the trust on the chain and then like verify a more trustworthy entity. And then when we issue the US passport, it will require doctor's birth certificate. Otherwise, you need to go through like some other like the N level of the checks for the identity checking. So the implication is that we need someone to verify the originality of the document. So from the Oregon state, there's another company, Income on RSA. Then there's another company, User Trust RSA, but we cannot have this chain infinitely. There should be some to end. And then there is a concept of the root CA. So root certificate authority. So the reason why we call it as a root CA is like so the entire public key infrastructure would look like this. So we have an Oregon state certificated here, and then the income on RSA assures our identity. But this company also generates issued like a lot of other certificates for the other entities. So that there will be some other companies that will be there. And then in common is assured by the user trust, but the user trust is assured by itself. So this will be at the root of the trust chain. So that's why we call it as a root CA. So basically what we do for the root CA, so we have seen that for this one, the user trust RSA certification. So they signed their own certificate. So there's no other entity to assure this entity. And then, so for the companies, that is set by some of the jurisdiction. So for example, to be the root CA or CA company, there's no specific law or like the organization that controls that, because the internet is not for the one country. So there's no specific organization or authority for that. It's somewhat distributed, but there should be some of the consensus among the people that we can grant the certificate issuer job to a certain company. And then, so private companies can offer for this one. And then like the internet community will not accept the root certificate authority from nation state, because that means like some nation got compromised and then they can use the internet by their own. So for example, have you heard about the incident that some of the internet traffic that should come through the Pacific Ocean to the United States, that was redirected through the Japan from Japan to China and then Western Europe to the United States? So it goes to the far turn for the entire Earth. And then, so some of the nation state launched the Bgp Gateway Attack. So BGP means a broader gateway protocol. And then that protocol determines that the intermediate internet traffic, where should they go, something like that. And then some of the nation state make the older traffic from East Asia goes to Google, get through their country. And then if they could be a root CA, then they can generate any kind of the google.com, gmail.com, those kind of certificate. And then they can install a fake server to steal all the cookie, password, and that kind of the credentials, and also read the secret message of that. So like granting a root CA company is a very dangerous movement. So like so for the root CA of the authorities, they do have like some of the regulations that they it's more likely self-regulation kind of thing. So they need to be audited by like the external company to prove that themselves are not compromised at all. Yeah. So like some examples of the root CA companies are Google Trust Service, Amazon Web Service, CA or something like that, and also VeriSign, DigiCert. These kind of companies are working as a certificate authority. And then because root CAs, there's no entity, no other entity that verifies the certificate's integrity or something. So how we use the root CA is that the operating system providers, for example, for Apple MacBook, the Apple Mac OS X, yeah, it will insert. So it's cut off at here, but it has around more than 100 root CA certificates, because these kind of the certificate authorities are spread all over the world. So I believe like in the US, there are like more than 10 companies. And then like the South Korea has like 3 companies, and then many other countries has their own certificate authority. But if some of them, for example, like suppose there is some of the company A issued like the 1 million certificate for the website, but if they cannot get into the root CA, yeah, then the internet users cannot connect to that website. So this is somewhat dangerous stuff, because like putting a root CA certificate means that like we will trust anything from that company. So it's quite dangerous, but with the careful control, right now our PKI runs with that. Question?
But does this allow us, like, for instance, like if we were to get like network traffic from Russia that was malicious, like this would allow us to stop that traffic and to execute on a machine?
So like for the previous example of the nation state attack, so I mentioned about like a nation state owned the certificate authority. But let's think about the example, different example, that the attacking entity do not own the certificate authority. Then they cannot generate the correct certificate for google.com or oregonstate.edu. So even if they redirect the traffic through Russia or something, if they cannot generate the matching certificate, then on the client side, we ask, are you google.com? But we got a wrong certificate, then connection cannot be established. So our PKI right now look like this. So there should be the root CA, and then root CA authorized some other companies to issue the website certificates, and then the website certificates is actually issued by those companies. Yeah, and then the reason why we have this kind of the trust chain is that, so suppose there was a compromisation of the private key from this company, then we just cut off this part of the tree and then ask them to move to the another company. So in 2010, have you heard about the malware called Stuxnet? Yeah. So that malware was like the attack targeting like the nuclear power plant for like for breaking some of the centrifuges in there, and then that was developed by the U.S. government, and then some of the indirectly linked attack was using the same vulnerability, and then to compromise one of the Turkish companies, the root CA private key. So what that means is that the attackers stole the private key of the root CA, then they can generate any kind of certificate for that. And then Turkish government detected that there was a rogue certificate, 100% valid, but the different one issued from Google. So for the Gmail certificate. So like we can see that like there was an attacker who compromised one of the like certificate authority, and then tried to hijack the Gmail traffic on like all the Turkish people, yeah, by doing like that. And then the important thing about using PKI is that the trust is verified by chain. So even if that company verifies the identity of Oregon State, so we should not stop the verification at here. So we should go up to the root CA, and then after that we can verify that we have the security anchor in our computer, and then check the every single entity on the certificate trust chain. So for the OregonState.edu certificate, we have this kind of the certificate chain. So this one verified by this certificate, and then this one verified by the last one, and then last one is self-signed. So there is one question from Zoom. Question is, how does a computer know which authorities are the root CAs? For example, is there a list of somewhere that contains the trusted root CAs? So we, as an internet users, we determine like which root CAs need to be there for your computers. But we here differs by like who will define the security. So there is a root CA storage for the operating system, because we also use this kind of the digital certificate to verify the driver code. So for example, if you purchase NVIDIA GPU, you need to install the NVIDIA driver, but the driver means like it runs at the operating system level. So if you have a malicious code in the driver, then they can do anything. So they don't even need to hack another program. They can read all your email, password, and that kind of thing. They can do that. So that's very dangerous. So how do they protect the integrity of the driver? Is that when NVIDIA generates the new driver program, then they will sign it. So they will take the SHA-256 sum and then sign it with NVIDIA's private key. And then that NVIDIA's public key is in the sum of the certificate and then endorsed by some of the root CA. So the Microsoft Windows has a lot of the root CA entity just for the verifying the driver code. Yeah, so that there are many users. So we will have like a lot of the root CAs. So the first thing is that the operating system designers can include them. So if they, so for example, so for the like this kind of the user trust RSA certificate authority, if they generate the certificate for the NVIDIA drivers, then the Microsoft operating system should have like that as a root CA. And then not just for the operating systems, web define their own set of the root CA. So Google Chrome was like the somewhat drastic of that approach. So what they do is like that they try to ignore the system's root CA certificates, and then they just want to maintain their own list of the certificates. So the reason was, so from Microsoft, so this is a weird story. So this is one of the shameful story of like my mother country, South Korea. And then what that was is that the South Korean government, they would like to create the root CA authority. And then that's totally counters like the internet spirits. Internet spirits, the people wants to make the internet to be independent from the country kind of thing. But the South Korean governments are like very archaic. They want to control everything. So that they want to be a root CA or CA certificate, a root CA authority, and then generate certificate for the government website for free. So that nowadays, like I'm not sure whether some of you have heard about Let's Encrypt. So like that is the website. You can get a free certificate for the website. So it's free, but that means it's less verify your identity little less. So that means like more dangerous. So there are ways that many ways that we can get a certificate freely or with the $5 or $10. But in 5 or 6 years ago, there's no Let's Encrypt, and then like even for the cheapest certificate was $89 or something. So the South Korean government would like to reduce the kind of the effort. So how they did it was like that they create the root CA, and then issue the certificate for all the government organizations, and then like the public universities, and then ask Microsoft about, so please do not include us as a root CA. But whenever your user using Internet Explorer or Microsoft Edge connects to our website, then add that automatically. So it's very canny and weird. So at the first place, like if you are not Korean, and then if you never visited Korean government website, there is no that kind of root CA. But when you visit the bluehouse.org.kr, that's the counterpart of the White House, then like some South Korean government root CA was installed automatically, and then without asking you for the permission or something. So that was very high dose and then weird activity. So like the Google Chrome and then some other web browsers are like up against for that. So that they want to manage their own certificate authority because they don't trust the operating system maintainers. But the later South Korean government received a lot of blowback from the internet community, so that they demolished the root CA certificate authority, and then they just purchased the SSL certificate for that. So there's no more that kind of weird activity at all. And then next is about like how we use the digital certificate. So we get back to the first question. So I want to verify the identity of the server, and then just ask, are you Oregon State.edu? Then give me your certificate. Then the Oregon State.edu server will send us 3 certificates, not just one. It will send this one, and then that one. And then what we need to verify is that, first thing is that the Oregon State is verified by in-common RSA, and that in-common RSA is verified by user trust RSA. And then we also verify that this is self-verified, so we need to check that is included in our root CA certificate storage or not. Otherwise, we should reject that. So after all 3 checks, or it could be 4 checks depending on the tree size, so all the checks are passed, then we can trust that this entity is Oregon State.edu. So the summary about the digital certificates is that, so the RSA encryption with the private key can serve as a digital signature because only the holder of the private key can generate the message, while anyone can verify that. Yeah. That's the beauty of using RSA. So it's quite distinct because we cannot do that with the block cipher or symmetric key configurations. And then to check the authenticity of the public key. So I can generate public key, you can generate public key, so we don't have the binding between the public key to real entity, and the digital certificates are doing that. So you can regard digital certificates as an ID card in the reality. And then certificates are signed by some trustful entities, and then it is done by the one entity signed the another, and then at the end, there is no other entity that can verify the one. So we need to have a self-verify, and then that one, we regard that as a root CA, and then the control of the integrity of the root CA is very important to the internet security. Yeah. So, and then another important thing is that we must verify the entire trust chain to ensure the authenticity. And unfortunately, the class is not end at here. We have something more to learn. Yeah. So I believe that there will be a 15 to 20 minutes more lecture, and then I will go for the tutorial for the 2 easy challenges. So before we move on to the Diffie-Hellman key exchange, any questions for the digital certificate and PKI? We will revisit about the digital certificate when we learn about the SSL, TLS, and then how our network security works. But make sure to know the concept about there is a trust chain, and then we need to verify them all. Then the next is about the Diffie-Hellman key exchange. So now we know how to verify the signature, and then how to verify one's identity, and then we know how to have a confidentiality using the block cipher, and then we know how to have the integrity using the cryptographic hash as Hmac. Then how can we share the key for the block cipher and Hmac securely? Yeah. And then the Diffie-Hellman is the algorithm developed in 1975, I believe. Yeah, 1975. Yeah. And then what it allows is that, so two entities, they are keeping their secret by their own, but that they can share a common secret over the insecure channel. And then this problem is that this algorithm is also based on this difficulty of the mathematical problem of the so-called discrete logarithm. Yeah. And then what that means is that, so G and P will be public. So that anybody can know G and P. And then, so for A and B, nobody knows. But we will leak the capital A and capital B. Yeah. So in such a case, can you compute this value? So let me visualize it first, and then I will go for the some of the more procedural description about the DP element. So what we will do is two parties, the Alice and Bob, will have the common paint, and then that is so-called public key. And then public key for the DP element is defined with the two prime numbers, G and P. So all we need to do is we need to choose a prime number that is big enough, yeah, so that the attackers cannot know about this discrete logarithm challenge. And then Alice will choose random number A, and then Bob will choose a random number B. So it's in a different color, so it's a secret, and then we will never leak this information to the others. But what we will calculate is G exponent by A, and then modulo by P. So we know G and P is public, and then Alice knows her own secret A, so we can calculate this. And then on the Bob side, so we know G and P, and then we know that the Bob's secret B, so we can calculate this one. So we are not sharing these secret colors, but we are sharing the mixtures of it to the others. Then from this number, if we apply exponential operation with A, then that will be GAB mod P. And then from this number, if Bob applies exponential operation with their own secret, then that number is GAB. But the interesting thing is that even if you know G to the B mod P, G to the A mod P, these two numbers, and also G and P, you cannot get GAB. That's the secret of this algorithm. So to be more formalized with some of the equations, so how we can do the DP element key exchange is that the user A and B agrees on the two prime number G and P. So these are public numbers. So suppose you and I are exchanging one of the secret, then what you can do is I will use G as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then you can say a P as a 7, 7, 3, 2, 4, 5. And then if you announce that public, there's no problem at all because it's a public key. And then user A will secretly choose A, the small a, and then compute the capital A. And then that is G to the A modulo P. And then user B, after choosing the G and P, then they can choose secret B, and then can generate the capital B, G to the B mod P. And then we will exchange capital A and B, not about the small letter A and B. These are secret. And then user A receives this number B. And then user A knows the secret A. So we just apply the exponential operation. And then B is actually G to the B. So G to the B to the A. So that's G to the AB. And then user B, after they receive A, then they will calculate capital A to the B. So that's actually G to the A to the B, so GAB. So this will be our common secret. And then this illustrates how two parties are communicating. So this one is the secret, G to the AB mod P. And then let's take a look at the attacker's point of view. So attacker knows G and P because these are public. And then capital A and capital B, that will be sending over the internet without any kind of protection. Yeah. So attackers can know these two, but try to get like a GAB mod P. So if we add two numbers, it'll be something like this. So it's totally different number. And then even if we multiply those, then that's G to the A plus B, not about the A multiplied by B. Yeah. And then mathematicians have proved that it's very hard to compute G to the AB from these numbers. Yeah. And then that's because, so you need to get either A or B from there. And then this is the discrete logarithm problem. So if you know the number A, G, and P, can you get what is the small a from like a capital A? So that is proven to be a difficult problem. But you can see that some of the things are looking very similar to RSA. So it's not directly related, but this discrete logarithm problem can also easily be solvable by the quantum computers. So this kind of the DP-Hellman key exchange can be broken, yeah, if the quantum computer is like working well. So let's take a look at this kind of the graphics again. So GP, these are like the public keys. So like we call it as a common paint. And then A and B are the secret of each one. And then these colors will never be leaked. And then we only see that the mixed color. And then our shared secret will be the mixing the common paint and then two secret colors. So because A knows their own secret color and BOM knows their own secret color, they can generate it. But by just knowing these two colors, no matter how you mix the color, you will be very hard to get like this exact number. So let's take an example. So suppose G is 5, a prime, and then P is 23 as a prime. And then A can choose any number less than G, so 4, and then B chooses B as 3. So right now the G is small to demonstrate the calculation, and then I chose a small number for the, we need to calculate and understand that, and then for easy understanding, I use a small number, but we should use a bigger number, super big number, to make the attackers hard to find A and B. And then G is 5, so if A is 4, then capital A would be G to the 4A, and then mod P. Then we will get 4. And for capital B, so to calculate that, G is 5, exponent by 3, and then modulo 23, then we will get number 10. And after that, as A, we can get this number B. And then secret of A was 4. If we exponent that by 4, then 10 exponent by 4 modulo 23 is 18. And then for B side, so they receive this number 4, and then their own secret is 3. And then A to the 3 is 4 to the 3 modulo 23, and that's actually modulo 18. And then if we know AB, 4 multiplied by 3, so 5 to the 12 modulo 23 is also 18. So that's how two parties can agree with the same number, even if they are over the insecure channel. And then because these two numbers, A and B, small ones, these are not leaked at all, so attackers can never guess about that. Yeah. So the implication of the DP-Hellman is that like after agreeing with the two prime number, and then each user will choose their own secret, and because their own secret will never leak, and then it is proven by leaking these two numbers, will not ever let attackers know about this value. So yeah, the implication is that there's a way that the two users can interactively talk together. So they need to exchange one message. So they need to send one message to the other, then like they can share a common secret. And then we will use DP-Hellman exchange to exchange a key for the block cipher and also for the Hmac. But the DP-Hellman is not perfect. So you will realize that why I taught you the digital certificate first before teaching the Diffie-Hellman after seeing this attack. So there's an attack, so-called man-in-the-middle attack. And then as the attack itself says, so there's a man in the middle. And then suppose A and B. So this user is A and this user is B. They want to share a secret. The same example, A choose 4, B choose 3, then we have like the capital A is 4, capital B is 10. So A need to share number 4 and B need to share number 10. Then man in the middle attack is something like this. There is a man in the middle and then intercept all the network traffic and then they can do whatever they want. So C intercepts all the communication between A and B. And then although A choose 4 and then we calculate the capital A as 4, then they just consume it and they just choose 5 and then return 20 to this user A. And then do the same thing for the user B. Then it's something like doing Diffie-Hellman with the user C and A, and then C and B. So between C and A and C, they, as a result of the computation, they will share the secret as 12. And then between B and C, they will share the shared secret as 19. So A and C will talk with this as the symmetric block cipher key, and then B and C can talk with this key. But the A will never know this key at all, and then B will never know this key at all. And then, assuming that we are on the internet, we actually don't know what's happening in the middle. So this is exactly same as the internet situation that anyone can intercept and then monitor all the traffic. Then they can manipulate with this one. Then although the user A believes that they are talking to the user B, so actually it could be attacked by the man in the middle. And then by just using Diffie-Hellman, there's no way you can detect that. So what it will do is whenever user A send a message to C, then they will use shared secret 12. So what C can do is to decrypt the message with 12 and then encrypt that with 19 and send to B. Then they can read the message and then user B thinks that the message is coming from user A. And then do the same thing. So if there's a message from B, decrypt with 19 and then encrypt again with 12, then that will let the communication flows, but the C can read all the things. So the problem is that I got a low battery sign on my laptop. I believe the problem is that it does not have power. I'm not sure I can plug out this thing. I'm not sure. Let's try. All things are good. Yeah. Oh, my bad. I was plugging some different cable in here. That's why. And now it works. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I'm good at doing virtual stuff, but not in the physical world. So, yeah. So, if you understand how the man in the middle attack can go, yeah. So even if some of the middleman plays this kind of trick, then as the end user entity, we could never know about that. So the implication is that the Diffie-Hellman is good. We can share the secret over the insecure channel, but because the channel is insecure, then there could be an attack by the man in the middle attack. Then how can we counter that? So that's the next part. So we need to do authentication first. So how we establish a secure communication channel is that, so suppose there are two users, user A and B, then they will ask their certificate And also, like when they are sending the Diffie-Hellman exchange material, the numbers, then they can send the certificate and then signature of it. Then certificate will verify the identity of the public key with the chain of the trust. Yeah. And then after we see the public key and private key, then after verifying the signature, then we can assure that this kind of number, the capital A and capital B, yeah, if these are signed by the user A and user B, then we can verify that that's indeed from those users, not by this middleman attacker C, because C do not have the private key of A and private key of B, so they cannot generate it. So that's the first step. So we can first check the authentication, and then when we do the key exchange, so A computes their sharing number, and then ask A to sign that with the A's private key, and then give me the certificate. And then ask the same thing to the user B. So after compute this, they will sign it. Then we can verify that these numbers are from user A and user B. Then we can ensure that there's no man in the middle. So we need to verify this kind of the certificate and PKI to kill the man in the middle attack. And then after killing the man in the middle attack, the two entity shared GAB mode P. And then we will use that as a key for the Hmac. So what we will do is, so we can use any kind of string at here, and then add our secret, the shared secret, and then it will generate the hash sum, and then we can use that as a Hmac. We can use that as like a block cipher key. So thankfully, the SHA-256 sum will generate the 256 bits of the message. Then we can easily apply the AES-256, and then any kind of block scheme, because not good for ECB because the pattern leaking is a serious threat. But for the CTR or like the CBC is okay if they are protected by the Hmac. And then we can also reuse the shared secret with the different string. Then we can generate the Hmac key. So the logic is after finishing the authentication, so we can securely exchange the shared secret. And then after exchanging shared secret, we can use the material for generating the block cipher key and also for the integrity checking the Hmac key. So this is how we can get authenticity first. And then after having the key authenticated key exchange, we can have confidentiality with the block cipher and integrity with the Hmac. Any questions about this part? So the reason why I speed up to teach a lot of stuff for today, like up to today, was like on Thursday we will learn about the real secure socket layer or transportation layer security I was running, and then we need this kind of knowledge to correctly understand that. And then so I just demonstrated in a naive way, but conceptually the how SSL works is not that different with the authentication, key exchange, confidentiality, and integrity. So we call like some of the I don't have a pen for it here. Yeah, we call the sum of the cryptographic scheme as so in SSL and TLS. So there is a cryptographic scheme called something like this. And then what each of the thing means that, so what kind of algorithm do we use for the authentication? So for the digital signature and certificate, we use RSA. And then second thing about the key exchange. So ECDHE, DH here is Diffie-Hellman, but it's a tweaked version. So what ECDHE means that the elliptic curve Diffie-Hellman. So this is much more efficient and secure. So we don't use raw DP element, but the elliptic curve DP element for now. And then E is ephemeral. What that means is that the elliptic curve scheme can also serve as a digital signature, but we will not use that. And then just choose a random number as we do in DP element exchange. So this defines what kind of key exchange algorithm that we use. And then this is about the block cipher. So after verifying authenticity, we will securely exchange the key. And then using that secret key, we will use block cipher as this one, and then Hmac as this one. And then this can be changed as like a SHA-384 or something like that. And then this part can also use RSA or just a regular DP element, or this part AES-128 or Camellia or some other block ciphers can be there too. If any questions? So if there's no questions, then like that, I prepared 2 very easy challenges for today. So I was thinking of like not preparing challenges for today, but some of you guys will be disappointed. So like I prepared it in like between 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. So there could be some of the glitch or error, but I believe like you guys can solve the challenge. And then I will demonstrate how you can solve the challenge. Then shared terminal. Then so the new challenges are like announced under network category. So you need to run the fetch network to get the challenge links to your home directory. And then when you get into the network, there are 2 challenges, raw DP element and then raw RSA. And then let's start with the raw RSA first. I have my solution here. And then your code will be something like this. And then what you need to do is like launch the launcher and then interact with that. And then what it will ask is that like it will ask for having 10 games. And then what the game means is that like it gives us the public key. Then we need to encrypt the following number using these public keys. And then it asks about like the giving the private key, and then asking about the decrypting of the number. So it's about asking that like can you encrypt and decrypt in RSA? Then so I prepared the template, the py, and then some of the parts are about dealing with the inputs. I've seen that like many students were struggling with dealing with the inputs for the XOR's perfect the challenge. So like I tried to create a more automated script for it. Yeah. So the good thing is like the less amount of coding, but the bad thing is like you are like getting far from like dealing with the string processing kind of thing. Yeah. But if you do that for many times, then like you will get used to it. So for all the solution script, we'll start with this function first, and then that will call main. And then what it will do is like it will call the launcher. And then so I added this message because like the output was not that matched correctly with the read line or something. So like what I did was that this part tried to find 10 in message. The reason is, so I want to read up to this point, and then start about the reading about the challenges. So that's why. And then it will run 10 times for the solved game. And then Either Interactive will print out the flag if there's some output coming from the program. And then inside of the solved game, what it does is like it reads the public key. Yeah, I did that for you, so you don't have to worry about that. So like it will get the public key N and E as the variable. And then it will get the quiz message. So it will split the number. So the first question was, so we are given with the N and E, so we need to encrypt this number. So I clearly marked about your to do, and then you just need to modify this line. So what we are doing is that we need to encrypt this quiz number using the public key. Public key is here, N and E. So what we need to calculate is quiz number, then that will be exponent. We will apply exponential operation with number E, and then mode N. And then this kind of operation has already been in the library of the Python. So it efficiently calculates the power mode. So it does not actually calculate this kind of big number. Instead of doing that, it will use the Euclidean algorithm to get a shortest path for getting the same value. So what we can do is we can use this power function. So this is actually called a power mode, but I don't know why Python just leave it as a power. And then what it does is the power ABC is actually this one. So this function actually do the operation that we need for us. So what we need is we need to decrypt. We need to encrypt his number with the public exponent E, and then we need to apply the modular N. So that will generate the encrypt number and then send back to the program. So let's take a look. So the program generates these public keys, and then we receive these two public keys. And then the program asks us to encrypt 199 so that we received that value correctly. And then we encrypted the number, and then the result was this one. And then I send that result. The script will send that result back to the program, and then the script also calculate the same value, and then it was correct. And then as a next quiz in the same game, so it will let us know about the private key. Then we need to get the private key, and then next number is we need to decrypt this number. So let's do that part. So please do not edit the do not edit part, just to refer to the code about how I parse the text or something. And then at here, after getting the private key number D, and then quiz number at here, then we need to decrypt the message. And then how we can decrypt is we need to put the cipher text here. So the quiz number should go there. And then our private key is D. And then the modulus, public modulus is N. Then I just typed in like that. Then run the solution, the Py. So in the first game, we encrypted the number correctly. And then we also decrypted the number correctly. Second game, it works correctly. Then the reason why I created this challenge is that to show that how the numbers are calculated internally. So I just use small numbers, but you can regard this as the 100 digit or 200 digit numbers, and then calculating the same thing. Yeah, but I just want to demonstrate how it internally works, and then so that you can feel about what computers are doing on the backside. So if you type the enter key too fast, there's a mismatching between the input and output. So there could be some of the incorrect result. But what you can do is press it slowly for 10 times. The last one was wrong. Why? Yeah, then you can get the flag. So the reason why I told you about like the challenges for today is a little spooky because like I could not polish it for a long time. So that's why, but you can solve the challenge. So is there any question about the raw RSA? So RSA is internally is very simple. So in Python, it's just a power mode, but there are some more details that like we cannot use RSA naively like this. There should be some of the random number padding must be there. Yeah, but we will learn about that later. Then next is about doing deployment and then take a look at how it goes. And I will run the launcher first, and then so the same thing. So it asks us to like guess the same giving this correct number for 10 times, and then it will select G and P like this, and then they chose their own number. Then we need to choose our own number, and then let's compare about we share the same secret or not. So that's the first thing. So copy the file, and then let's get into the solution.py. So you will see this similar structure, and then like this part is like the handling the game for the 10 times. And then this is the solve game part, and then it will receive a G and capital P because we are using P as a process. Yeah. So these are the public keys, and then we will have the exchange number as an exchange number variable. And then at here, we need to choose a random A, so random secret. And then the requirement of the secret is that the smaller than G, and then we chose a G as a big number with the 6 digit. So we just choose like the one random number between in the range of the 1,000 and 500,000. And then, although I print the value A here, so I do not send back this to the program. So this number A is like the remaining secret. Yeah. And then what we need to do is we need to create a sharing number. So what the program says is that like they say my number is this. And then what that means is that from G and P, they choose B, and then they already calculate the G over B mod P. So that this is the number that can be shared. Then we need to do the same thing. We choose A, and then we need to send G over A mod P. So let's do that. G over A mod P. Right. So there's an error. That's because I did not put this share the secret yet. So we received this number. That's the G over B mod P. And then my secret is this one, but we do not disclose this secret to the program. We only share this number, GA mod P. Yeah. And then the next step is that we need to calculate the shared secret. So the shared secret is this number, and then we need to apply exponent with A and then mod P. So to get the shared secret, so we have the exchange number. So in this variable, we have their sharing number, exchange number. So we need to compute exchange number and then over A or P. That's how we calculate the DP-Hellman. So this is actually G over B, and then apply the exponential with A, then GAB. Yeah. So let's try to run it. Then from the G and P, these kind of numbers, and then they exchange this number, and then from the secret number that we picked, we calculate this number and then send that to the other party. And then they know this and their secret B, and then we know this and our secret A, this number. So we can calculate the shared secret like this. And then after sending the shared secret, they will send what was B, and then this number, the number that we shared, and then this is B, and then having the same modular, P, will result in the same value. And then if you run this thing for 10 times, then you can get the flag. So this is an easy challenge, but by doing that and running it through, and then take a look at the values, then you will see that how mathematically it works, and like how the numbers are moving, and then like what kind of things are keeping our secret, and then like help. I believe like this will help understanding about the details of the DP-Hellman and also well for you. All right, any questions to the challenges? So all you need to do is like the editing 4 lines. That's it. Yeah. All right. Thank you for your attention, and yeah, have a nice day. Wait a second. Let me start recording.